Hey there, Capricorn. So how you doing? So this is a 2-week forecast taking you from the 13th, 14th of March, the total lunar eclipse, aka the full moon in Virgo, right the way through to the partial solar eclipse, the new moon in Aries. So this is a 2-week forecast, and there's so much going on. Truly, it's incredible. If this is the first time you've come to this channel, then welcome. My name's Louisa Tanner Munson. This is Feel Good Astrology. I guess the way I use astrology is to try and help you feel like there's a little bit more choice, like that you can see a little bit more space around what's going on currently, and so that you can, I don't know, feel like there's a little bit of wriggle room, so that you can handle the energies with a little bit more grace and ease and a sense of excitement. So that's what I'm hoping to do in this forecast for you. So as we get into this, what I want to do is just walk you through this waning moon phase that we're in, from literally the full moon that's really upon us at the moment, right the way through, to the new moon in 2 weeks' time. So it's a very, very interactive time indeed. So the first thing to focus on, right now, as I'm recording this, we're coming into the fullness of the moon, and it's a time of maximum energies, maximum emotions. It's a time when everything feels really like too much, and I think we get the real feel of how accurately we've been living our life, in terms of what we're wanting to have in our life vibrationally. So for instance, if you're wanting to be a certain way in the world, you really get to see how well you're doing with it around the time of the full moon. When it's going quite well, there's usually lots of things flowing in to support you and to show you, it kind of give you the thumbs up to let you know there's all these opportunities and this beautiful flow that's coming in. But when you're slightly off-piste with it, you'll find lots of niggles coming in as well. And most likely you'll find there's a combination of two. So you'll see what things you're doing really well and possibly things that aren't so good. And it can be quite overwhelming because it just feels like all the energy is coming in right now. It's really on top of you. But this is an eclipse. So whatever is going on with this is moving you. It's creating a shift. It's about to create some freedom for you. It's about to create a change, an evolution. The eclipse points are very, very sensitive. So I wonder what you're creating, and that's what we're going to be going into. And so in this first week, it's in this highly illuminated stage. So we're externalizing, like we're externally aware of what is overwhelming and what we might need to let go of, where we might need to change our energy slightly. We need to use discernment, and we start to let things go. It's a time of giving back. It's a time of recycling, throwing things away if they're beyond their useful time. So it's a time of offloading and clearing away. Ideally, we're clearing away a clean path to the new moon, where we can start the new growth phase. We can plant a seed that we want to mature into something really beautiful. And so we become a cosmic gardener. We are gardening our own cosmic energies. Now, as you can see in this first week, it's more illuminated than it is in the dark. And so you're doing it more externally. But as we're coming into the second week, you see the unconscious mind seems to take a lot more of your awareness. Like, it's you're not consciously aware of things, but you've got this sense, it's not externalized, it's all very internalized. And so what's usually going on during that time is we're reviewing, but we're a little bit more silent. We tend to get a bit more tired. We tend to sleep more. It's like we're going into a mini hibernation. It's a time when we are kind of dying to ourselves a little bit. I think of it as the cycle of life and death, and, when you look at a plant cycle, eventually it starts to let go of its shape, and it's really starting to kind of give way. And it really kind of goes into this surrender. And this is what's going on. You're going deeper inside and going into a place of allowing changes to come up. And it takes a lot of trust. So this is a time when really, trust in yourself and trust in what you're capable of achieving, and kind of letting go of things and not really holding things so tightly because you don't trust that it's all going to go okay. These are times to really tune inwards. And so if you can get to a clean slate by the time we get to the partial solar eclipse on the 29th, you will have absolutely set the scene perfectly for a very brilliant and bright and very important new moon for you. If we look at this as a diary, you'll see the full moon and the new moon and, the third quarter in between. Now, this is really important because we've got Mercury retrograde the very next day. So in a couple of days' time. Then we've got 3 pretty big things going on in this week, apart from Mercury retrograde. Remember, Venus is already retrograde. If you listen to my last forecasts for the last 2-week periods, you'll have noticed that Venus went retrograde from then. But, in this first week, the sun comes into a conjunction with the North Node and also in a conjunction with Neptune. Now, where this is happening in your charts is really creating this new impetus, this like new feeling of how you want to be in terms of, the roadmap you've created for yourself. To me, it feels like, you're reviewing your life in terms of the locality, your direct experience of it, your neighborhood, your community, your friends, your job, how everything kind of fits all in together tightly in a package. So I really think there's going to be a lot coming up around that, and I'll go into that in a sec. But then, just before we come to this third quarter, we're also starting the new astrological year. So the sun goes into Aries, 0 Aries, and that's the spring equinox in the northern hemisphere. It's the autumn equinox if you're in the southern hemisphere. It's a really big time of new starts. And so, it really does feel like there's some new thinking that's coming up for you. And, where this is all happening is at a really important place in your chart. In the second week, we've got a Cazimi, a Venus Cazimi, Venus retrograde Cazimi, a Mercury retrograde Cazimi, and then we've got Mars square Chiron and Venus moving into Pisces and making a conjunction with Neptune. So this second week is immense leading up to this new moon. So I'm going to bring the charts up in a second. I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you, though, to everybody that supports this channel. Whether you've supported me historically or you're supporting me right now, I just want to absolutely, send my love and say how much I appreciate you. There are so many different ways that we can support each other, and you've really done me a solid. So thank you so much. So Capricorn, these are the charts then that I've pulled up to really describe what I think are going to be helpful for you in this 2-week period. So this first chart is for the total lunar eclipse. There's the moon and there's the sun, and you'll see that they're at completely different ends of, of the spectrum. They're in complete opposition. And, I'm going to go through these 3 charts very quickly so you can see how everything moves. And you'll see the moon is going to move around this way. Okay. And this is where it's going to be at the time of the new moon. So the moon's on quite a journey, but you'll see the energy down here is immense. It feels like this chart is pretty much all about here. So let's just quickly flick through. So this is the chart of when the sun goes into Aries. And the moon's got to this point at this point. And here the moon has made it around to the sun, and then the sun and the moon are leading the way in Aries. So these are the 3 charts we're going to be looking through. And hopefully from that will give you an idea as to how this 2-week period is going to go. Like I said, the first week is more externalized. The second week is really deep, it's really hard acting. And it's all internalized. It's really bringing you into this place of inner trust. So what strikes me is this total lunar eclipse in Virgo is blowing up all thoughts about, this is your local community, and this is what you know to be true. This is kind of like the truth that you live your life by, all of the learning that you've had that has helped to create this normal life for you and maybe your family, your relationships with people in your neighborhood, maybe your brothers and sisters and cousins, and your work life as well. I really think that this is a place where we have a sort of community experience, and also where we belong. And I think there's a narrative here that we really understand, like the narrative of this is how life is and this is what we do. It's kind of like a short-handed context for life and living. And Saturn's been coming through here, really getting you to consider your life at a much deeper level, and to see if you can make it a little bit more settled, a little bit more steady. It's probably brought some challenges in this last couple of years about your community. And right now there's a lot of focus on towing the line of your community and everyone that you're aligned to. And yet this total lunar eclipse, this full moon up here, this is in a part of your chart associated with everything other than your local community. So it's everything outside of your community. It's everything foreign, everything spicy, everything that is evolving and expanding, because often these communal places contract and compact. Because we get into these little mind flows, and once everyone comes into an agreement, it goes back into a compacted new thought form to grow from. But there is this the solidity of a community is quite strong, and yet the moon up here is really sort of wanting to experience some higher thoughts, some higher reasoning, some higher exploration of different things. There is a desire for freedom and adventure, a desire for space, a desire for to know the reason behind everything, not just to know this is how it is, but why. It's almost like you're a 5-year-old, everything you're hearing. Right now, I think, you're either challenging yourself or something's coming in and you're thinking, okay, enough. Like, this feels too much. It almost feels like, who is in charge of your life? Is it the community? Are they dictating to you? Do you feel obliged to follow the leader? Or are you gonna kind of like cut yourself free? And I was going to say lead yourself, but not necessarily lead yourself, but just because, is there a need to be led or to have a leader or just to be? I think that's what this is about. It's like, how can you just be right now rather than feel like you're having to kind of fit and norm and so on and so forth. So it's an interesting little conundrum for you. Now, obviously, this can really if you're quite comfortable in your life and you have a lot of space to be yourself, this can be a time when you come into even more space and feel really quite magnificent and realize just how weird life is. And you can have a sense of humor about it. But, if you're feeling very compacted down here, this full moon can absolutely bring the dreadfulness of having all this sort of compaction around you. And then you might feel like you need to run off, or you need to, run off with the circus or something, do something spontaneous. Because, of course, the Capricorn energy, Capricorns in general do tend to want to rule their own lives and to know who they are and not to have too many people interfere. They are quite determined to do things in their own way. And yet it's also interesting to note they're not always that comfortable to be too different. They are they are quite practical, so there is this kind of niggling feeling coming up around the time of the total lunar eclipse of kind of breaking free from anything that is restraining you. So it's a very deep and hard acting eclipse that's coming up, and it could really free you up from some persistent thoughts that are actually not really helping you. They're keeping you stuck. So I do think this is going to free you to create a whole new life for yourself. Now, where the new moon in Aries is going to be happening is down here, and this part of your chart is about your home and your family. This is going to be interesting, this new journey, because I don't know if you've got Capricorn ascendant or you're watching this as somebody with Capricorn sun, but according to the degrees that your Capricorn is in, if it's around the early degrees of Capricorn, what's going on right now with this Mercury and Venus retrograde, and with the new moon that's coming in, you may well find that there's a feeling of kind of frustration, that you do want to go off in this new direction. You are ready for this new direction, and yet it doesn't feel that safe. It feels a little ungrounded, and that's going to be difficult for the Capricorn. But there is a sense that there's a progression that is needed. There is a desire to move forwards. There is a desire to change the way you are at home, possibly change the way you're living, and a very real possibility that it's time to shift into a new home altogether. The Venus and Mercury retrograde, interestingly, they're going retrograde through the area of your house. So everything to do with your home and belonging and the people you live with and how you live, it's all up for discussion. It feels like there's a lot of assumptions that have gone on. And right now it's important to get clearer about what you meant when you said you wanted security, or what you meant when you wanted to be a family, and this, that, and the other. It feels like there's a lot of things to clarify, to get much clearer on. Now, both of Venus and Mercury are going to be going back into the sign of Pisces. So in finding out more about what you're working towards, you're also dipping into your community and into the narrative. And, it's very easy to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You think, oh, I feel really kind of obliged to live like this and follow this narrative and agree with this news perspective and agree with this political perspective or religious perspective or whatever it is. You might be towing the line in your business, for instance. You might have I remember when I worked for JP Morgan Chase years and years and years ago, I really felt like that was my identity, because we do that, and we become the ideal employee, or the identity of that employee. That's a real sort of phenomenon. So to understand more about how you want to live, you're going back into the community that you really identify with, and you might find that community is kind of you've taken the cues from the community and they're no longer valid to you, because if you change your mind, ergo you're going to want to live slightly differently according to your new vibration. So there is something very special going on. And it might not sound that special. It might sound kind of annoying, like, God, I thought I'd got through this already. But actually, it's really important. There's a huge amount of growth coming up for you, Capricorn. Over this next year, and I will be releasing sort of in-depth reports about the new year from spring 2025 to spring 2026. That's an astrological year, so I'm going to be releasing those very, very shortly, and you'll find out in those that we've got Sun, we've got Neptune, we've got Saturn, Venus, Mercury, all going backwards. Well, not the sun's moving forwards, but the Venus, Neptune, Mercury and Saturn, they're going across and then back and across. So this is a really important point, and you're going to have Saturn and Neptune, really, really close to this 0 Aries for much of this year. It's a really, really sensitive point, and it's an angular point for you. It's really showing this need for change, this need for a new take on your security, and I think a new kind of quest in life. This is a very private side of our chart, where a lot of our beliefs and behaviors, really coming from childhood, are really directing us. So I see that there's going to be some internal shifts, but really big sort of psychological internal shifts. And as Neptune comes over, you may well feel like, who am I and where do I belong? So there is this really, I think you're bridging two worlds. Your very physical, real world is now coming into a new context. And this new context is, and why am I here? Here I am, and why am I here? Here I am. This is the physical side of me. I need work. I need money. I need my house. I need blah, 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 blah. And then there's this, why am I here? What is it that nurtures me? What is it that provides for me? It's the physical and the non-physical. So you are going to be going on quite a big journey as these new positions are taking hold over this next year. It is immense. I mean, not just that, Uranus is going to go into Gemini, and Jupiter's going into Cancer. So it's all shift, but it's all shift here in this quadrant of your chart, which is very much like working from the ground up. You feeling grounded and feeling settled, and then from that you're coming into this place of creation, and from that you're noticing how you want to work, and from that you're attracting the right people into your life. So it's all working from the ground up. And so this is a really intense time. So if we're going from the total lunar eclipse, where it feels like boom, all of a sudden there's this kind of frustration and this need to, like, what else is possible and what is this about? It feels like there's a much bigger perspective out there that you've not been able to grasp before, not quite as you are right now, and you're just feeling quite tight here. And so that is really I think foreshadowing this new, or maybe highlighting, because shadowing, that sounds kind of unpopular or unfavorable, but you're coming into this time of great change where you are changing your, I guess, the fundamental structure of who you are. Is huge. So I want to talk a little bit about the Cazimis that are coming in, because these are super strong. So Cazimis, you've got this one here, the Sun conjunct Neptune, Sun conjunct Venus, and also the Sun conjunct Mercury. So this is when, the Sun and Neptune, or Sun and Venus and Sun and Mercury are together. And if you think of the size of the Sun, it's huge. Like you could imagine it's the size of this wheel, let's say. And then the sign of Neptune, the size of Neptune is right in the middle. So what we're saying is, as Neptune and the Sun come together, Neptune is right in the heart of the Sun. Neptune is absolutely sort of engulfed by the Sun. But it appears like during this time frame of this Cazimi, this in the heart of the Sun position, that the energy of the Sun is potentizing the energy of Neptune. It's making everything Neptunian much more accessible, and it's almost giving you a Neptune a breakthrough. And so Neptune is a planet to do with I think connection, higher love. It's about our imagination, our psyche, our intuition. It's also about empathy and forgiveness and generosity. It's also about creativity. It's really about being beyond the veil. And so, this conjunction where you're really, like, Neptune is in the heart of the Sun. We're really getting the Neptunian theme almost kind of beaming into us. And it's at the last degree of this zodiac. To me, this is saying, you could have a breakthrough of such big proportions that you understand that your life is never going to be the same again, or understand that your life is about to take a massive leap forwards. It could be a point where you just kind of give way, or let go of all your preconceived ideas about yourself, and you're just going into immense gratitude, which would be another Sun Neptune kind of energy, and using your imagination to create a whole new life for you would be a really positive thing that you could do as well. Now, the Sun conjunct Venus, when the Venus Cazimi is coming on, that's going to be at 2 degrees in the sign of Aries on the 23rd. So this is here, it's in the home, it's recreating a new way to relate to the idea of home and stability. Like, Venus helps us in terms of well-being and flow and love, but also about the feeling of abundance. And so how can you get all those good feelings at home? How can you relate to your home and how you live in a whole new way that you get well-being, love, and abundance? So it's it could be answering all of those questions that you need to know during that little time frame of the Cazimi. There's also the Mercury Cazimi at 3 degrees in the sign of Aries. And so 3 to 4 degrees in the sign of Aries. And this is, again, giving you a different relationship to home, and also a breakthrough in terms of your stability and where you're going. And how you might want to communicate about it, and also be social about it. Venus and Mercury together are very sisterly, brotherly. It's a lot more open. There's a lot more flow. So I see that we're coming into a time, or you're coming into a time of great flow and communication at home. And this will, I think, really create a whole new sort of emphasis for you, a whole new set of possibilities. Now, during this time, when, for instance, when the Mercury Cazimi is coming on, the moon makes a very powerful connection to Pluto. So it's working with, I'll just move this chart on so you can get a better feel for it. But it's a few days on from here, the moon will come into a conjunction with Pluto, connect with the South Node and also Uranus in your fifth. And to me, what this is showing is that you can have a massive transformation and shift in terms of money and what you might need to be able to live the way you want to live. That also allows you to feel a lot more creative and a lot more in your flow, a lot more as you were meant to always be, like the core you, not the commercial you or the corporate you, but the core you. And it's also here to cut away at the past ideas, your past assumptions as to what you might need to make all of that work. So I really see that this is a huge time of breakthroughs. And again, this is in the week where it's time to let go of your preconceived ideas and to embrace a whole new reality for yourself. As we're coming to the end of this period, the Mars Chiron square comes into sharp focus. Now, Mars has been in your 7th house for a little bit. He had moved forwards, and then around the 6th of December, he went retrograde and slowly inched back into your 7th house. And he has gone direct again. He's been direct for a while now, and there is some relief there for sure. Is it 3 weeks he's been? 2.5, 3 weeks. Yeah, it's getting on that way. He's been going forwards again for a while, and I know I felt better since he's moved forwards, but you must feel a lot better since he's moved forwards in your 7th house. Feels like you can plan things with the people around you, and that they've got a bit more energy, and that you can start doing things together. However, Chiron in your 4th house, he's been in your 4th house for quite a long time. It really shows where there's things to clear, where there's a sense of old pain from the past, where there's situations and vulnerabilities related to home and family. And so this square between Mars and Chiron, I think, is showing that there are insecurities at home and like a feeling of vulnerability. And also a desire to move through that and beyond that, and the frustration. Maybe you need the people around you to engage in that with you. Maybe you need to talk with people about your vulnerabilities. However, it just feels like it's really, really tense. Now, this particular square has been going on and off since October of last year. So October the 13th, that's when it was really coming on. So look either side of that, so the beginning of October, and the first week in October until the end of the 3rd week in October, the feeling of vulnerability or the insecurity may well have come up during that time. And then at the end of January into the 1st week of February, that would have also reared its head again. So I don't know how it's playing out in your life currently, but this is the final one of these squares. So I do think you're going to be able to shift and move on beyond it. So whatever it is that most vulnerable thing about home and family, or that hurt, maybe it's an ancestral one, I think there are going to be people around you that are ready to face it now, or face it with you, and that, that you can somehow form a plan together. There is a sense that a new kind of dynamic togetherness can come up. And then the last thing, just before the new moon, Venus hops back into Pisces, makes a conjunction to Neptune. These are the 2 harmonics of love in the last degree of the zodiac. Really, really yummy, very, very dreamy. To me, it feels like as you're coming into this new moon, especially if you've cleared the path for this new moon, this is, I think, setting in place a sense of promise, a sense that there is something much better than you can imagine. that the world is your oyster, even though if you look around, everyone will persuade you that it's not like that. But I think this big dreamer energy is coming in, and there is a sense of something very, very new and unique. So there you go, Capricorn. I hope that's helpful for you to understand. You really are on a big journey, and it's and the shifts that are coming on for you are really taking you from what feels very, very safe and understood into the territory of, I want more. I want to know the reasons behind things. I want to be amazed and dazzled. And I actually want my life to feel quite miraculous. And that's going to create some shifts for me at home. So there you go. Now, if you would like to go even deeper, one of the things that I do is I've got a membership scheme, which would allow you to support this channel if that's what you'd like to do. But I do forecasts every new moon and also every full moon based on these ones, but then I go even deeper. So for instance, today, there's also a relationship and connection forecast just for you, Capricorn, and also a career and ambition forecast, again, just for you based on those charts. So if you want to go deeper and support and also do a sort of community hangout where we can ask questions and chat and this, that, and the other, and loads of other things, then you might be interested. And if you are, all you need to do is just check out on the link below. It's all there for you. So anyway, have a fantastic 2 weeks ahead and hope to catch you another time real soon. Lots of love. Bye for now.